Hello class! Today we will be learning about geometric basics. I know that might sound a little bit confusing, so we're going to be actually learning about different types of lines and different types of angles, and both of their characteristics. Now, has anyone heard of any of these terms before? Rays, line segments, perpendicular, right, points, parallel, obtuse. If you have, just jot down a little comment right down below, even if it's just one sentence, that's fine. If you don't know that much yet, don't worry, we're going to learn a bunch of stuff in a couple minutes. All right, here we go. First off, we have points. Points are the exact location of an object in space. It's exactly where something is. So we have two good examples right here. We have an everyday example, which is a pen, or it can be a pencil. The very tip of it is a point. It tells you exactly where your pen or pencil may be. We also have coordinates, which tells us where in the world something is, such as like the Himalayan mountains or Asia. Just tells us where something is. Next up, we have lines. Lines are straight paths between 2 points that go on forever. So a good example of this would be a horizon. You see a horizon and you don't ever see the beginning or the end of it. It just goes on forever, which is really pretty. Next up, we have line segments. While line segments are similar to lines, instead of going on forever, they have endpoints. It's still a straight line / path that's in between 2 points, but instead, like I said, of going on forever, it stops right at that point. Two good examples would be a notebook. A notebook has 4 corners, and the line segments are the length and the width of the notebook. It doesn't go on forever. Can't start writing out in space. That'd be cool, but you can't. You have to write exactly on the paper because that's where the paper is. Another example of a line segment is if you've ever seen your mom or dad lift weights, a dumbbell is a line segment technically. It's real cool. Next up, we have rays. Rays are a mixture of straight lines and line segments. One end goes on forever, while the other end is stopped at the end point, can't move. A really good example of this is a sun. A sun has a great big middle, which can't move, and then the rays of the sun go out to spread sunlight to the rest of the world. So far we've been talking about different types of lines. Let's talk about when we have 2 lines together, what happens. Usually when we have 2 lines together, they can either be parallel or perpendicular. I know these words sound a little strange. At first they do, but you get used to them. So parallel is when there's 2 lines, exactly the same, and they're going in the exact same direction. So they're either going both up and down or both left and right. Perpendicular is when you have 2 lines and they intersect with each other at any random place on the lines. Usually with perpendicular lines, you get a right angle, which we're going to talk about in just a sec. It's real cool. So we're going to talk about angles now. Get a little bit away from lines. While lines are still slightly involved here. So first off, we have 4 different types of angles. We have acute angles, right angles, obtuse angles, and straight angles. I'm going to go through this from smallest to biggest angle, okay? First off, we have the acute angle. This is when the angle of the triangle, the vertex if you will, is less than 90 degrees. So this can be anywhere from 1 degree to 89 degrees. Can't be 90 though. 90 degrees is reserved only for right triangles. Right triangles can't be 89, they can't be 91, they can only be 90. And it creates that perfect little box. Perfect little right angle. Next up, we have obtuse angles. Obtuse angles are the big ones. They're like if you try to make like a weirdish L with your arms, like you're so excited, that would be an obtuse angle. Anyway, they're angles that go from 90 degrees, slightly above 90 degrees to slightly below 180 degrees. Or more specifically, 91 degrees to 179 degrees. Finally, we have straight angles. This is basically a line, but it has an angle because it's flat out. A good way to think of a straight angle is it's almost two right angles completely combined. So 90 plus 90 is 180, which is what a straight angle is. Just a little quick recap. Remember, right angles and straight angles, they're exact. 90, 180. Acute and obtuse have ranges. Acute angles are less than 90. Obtuse are in between 91 and 179. We're going to do a quick little review. Let's see. So we have 42 degrees, 98 degrees, 149 degrees, 180 degrees, and 90 degrees. Oh, and 2 degrees, sorry. And you're going to want to go through them and label them whether or not they're acute, right, obtuse, or straight. Be careful, there's a tricky one right in there. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to think about this. Well, not a couple minutes, probably a little bit of a minute or two. To do this exercise, if you need to, pause it, go back to the other slide, and look at the slide again with all the information right there. Okay. I'm going to give you about 40 seconds. If you need to, like I said, just pause it, work on it. You can take all the time in the world. It's a great thing about doing videos. Remember, acute and obtuse have ranges. Right and straight are exact. All right, let's start this review. So right off the bat, can you have two easy ones that can be answered? Yes. F is an exact right angle, and D is an exact straight angle. Because right angles are only ever 90 and straight angles are only ever 180. Now let's start on the top. 42 degrees. Okay, it's too big for right angle because that's 90 degrees. So it would have to be an acute angle. B, 98 degrees. Okay, it's too big for acute, too big for right, too small for straight. So it would have to be obtuse. 149 degrees. Way too big for right, way too little for straight. Gonna have to be obtuse again. We did D and E. You might be thinking, is there a different classification because it's so small? Nope, it would still be an acute angle. And if I was going too fast, I did type out the answers right there for you if you would like to write them down. All right. Just remember, I will see you guys tomorrow in class. Remember, we will be doing hands-on activities based on the video's material. So if you need to, go ahead and rewatch the video. That's what it's here for. And have a good night, everybody.